My name's Zara. My name's Zara, and here's what's happened in the environment today. There's a fund called the Pacific Resilience Fund, and it's a fund where countries that essentially cause the climate crisis help Pacific nations build mitigation techniques and help with their resilience against the climate crisis. You may know that the Pacific Islands are mostly low-lying, they're very flat, they obviously have people on them that need to be rehoused, and these Pacific Islanders didn't cause the climate crisis. So it's up to countries like the UK, China, Australia, US to be like, oh, we caused it, but you're feeling the effects, so here's a load of money. Anyway, where I'm getting with this is New Zealand being like one of the closest countries to the Pacific Islands and has very close ties to the Pacific Islands, hasn't put in any money into this fund, whereas China, Australia, US and so forth have put money into this. And whatever New Zealand has basically said, we will put in money, but we just want to know about the frameworks. But we know climate change is real, we know it's happening, so just shove a load of money into it, get the scheme going, you know? And considering there's a lot of Pacific Islanders in New Zealand, they should be helping more, in my opinion. The fund is trying to reach $1.5 billion US. So what's that? Maybe like £1 billion? And if you're in New Zealand, it'd be like 2 billion. So there's a lot of money that is going into this and needs to go into this to help these Pacific Islanders save their home. Anyway, so obviously Chris Luxon isn't doing the best job that he could, considering a large sum of his nation will, one, be impacted by this because the Pacific Islands, a lot of them are going to come to New Zealand, and two, a lot of New Zealanders are from Samoa, Tonga, etc. And so these are their homes, and the fact that New Zealand isn't putting anything into this is a bit shady, in my opinion. There is a place in Barbados called the Gaza. This is so wild to me. So in 2019, Hurricane Dorian slashed through the Bahamas and much of the Caribbean and Latin America. During this Category 5 hurricane, which is the highest level it can be, over 75 people had died and like hundreds were missing. Anyway, what has happened and why the Gaza has come into the vocabulary is because the hurricane brought 20-meter high storm surges and just completely decimated people's houses and villages and towns, meaning that people became homeless. And the Bahamas didn't have the money to rebuild this. This meant that because the Bahamas didn't have the money to rebuild this, people just got pushed out. And so now this place, the Gaza, has just been cornered off, and you know, nature's doing its thing and trees are regrowing there now, where these people's old homes used to live. But the social impact of this is that not only have these people lost their house, they've lost their livelihood. A lot of them would have had shops and businesses around this area, and they've been pushed further out. They've been displaced to be further away from each other, and now they have to try and create their own communities. So not only have these people lost their houses, they've also lost their social status. They've also lost their friends, their families, not only to death, but to them not being able to live where they used to live. And I couldn't find really in depth as to why it's called the Gaza, but one can only assume that it's an area of land decimated by an external force. And with the increased impacts of climate change, hurricanes like this are only just going to become more frequent, and they're only going to push people further away from their homes and from their livelihoods. And then we have countries like New Zealand refusing to pay into some climate funds. And lastly, there is a company that is converting old taxis, like black cabs, lorries, cars, even aeroplanes, converting those petrol and diesel engines into electric vehicles. And not only does this have a positive impact on the environment, being that it's reducing our carbon emissions, it also has an economic impact, especially for cabs in London, where they have to pay the £12.50 ULEZ charge every day. And it's also bringing back older models, it's allowing older models to come back into circulation, it's reducing our waste. Anyway, I think that's a really cool idea.